G'day again, guys. Appreciate you coming back to watch another one of my videos. Sorry it's taken me so long to do this. I'm a busy man. I'm a security guy for an entire company and manage their IT and whatnot, and I just get a bit carried away with work and whatnot, and try to do this in my spare time. So I do apologise it's taken so long. I'm not trying to be a YouTube guy or anything like that. I just purely want to contribute to the 3D printing community, especially with the CR6 range. I don't think it gets done a lot lately. I know there's a few people on there like that Tripod's Garage and stuff that do a lot of the stuff on the community firmware and stuff, which is great stuff. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you do that because it's a fantastic firmware. But I thought I'd quickly cover off the modification on the bed of the CR6-MAX. Now this is my Max. It's in a bit of a shambles at the moment. Please excuse that. I'm converting the carriage up here to linear rails. Slowly getting that sorted. I've hit a bit of a snag. The end stop is not hitting the end there, so I'm going to have to pull the end stop and put it on the outside, but I'll work on that and get it sorted. We'll see if it makes any difference, but to be honest, I'm not expecting it to make much of a difference at all. Alright, so you've probably seen my other videos where I've replaced the bed on the CR6 SE with knobs at the bottom so that you can level the bed and get it tramming right. Now, of course, we all know that I hate the the Facebook CR6 community, and they hate me. They don't like it that I'm making these modifications. God knows why. I don't know. They freak out. They put all these crazy comments on my stuff, and look, I just delete them. So if you're thinking about making a stupid ass comment that, oh, please don't do this, you're going to ruin your print and blah 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 blah, yeah, don't bother. I'm just going to delete your comment. I have full control. I don't give a shit. Alright, so the CR6-MAX is a bit of a different beast. The standard Creality knobs don't fit it, and there's obviously a lot more points in the bed that you've got to think about. Now I have come up with a bit of a solution. It's taking some stuff away, I will warn you now. I mean, if you hang on to it, doesn't matter, you don't have to worry about it after that, but you can always put it back. But look, I've been running this now for about a month and have seen a great deal of not performance, but it's a lot more stable on the base and things like that. I've not seen any warping, I've not seen any bowing. Once I leveled it, I've leveled it once when I first got it done for the entire month that I've had it running, and it's been perfectly fine. My CR6 SE models that I do the mod on the beds, I actually, for the first time in 6 months, re-leveled one of them because they just don't move for me. Re-leveled the bed and it was exactly the same. They're holding nicely, so that there's absolutely no need to have this many points of support in the bed. Yeah, of course it makes for a solid bed, but if it's not tramming right, then it's not tramming right, and what's the point? Yeah, the software deals with it, but anyway. Alright, so let's get started. Now, full transparency, I've already done this one. I only have one of the CR6-MAXes. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through it, and I've taken everything out, as you can see here. I'll walk you through it, and then I'll put it back together, and I'll pause the video, come back to it, and be good to go. So the first thing you want to do is lift the gantry up out of the way, and you want to take off the glass. Now, just be careful with this. I don't know about you guys, but I don't actually use the carborundum glass, whatever Crowdy call it. It's great when it's brand new, but as soon as it starts to get a bit of age on it, it seems to stop working for me. I know there's plenty of other beds out there that are really good, but I just use the underside of these. They seem to work really well, and I just use glue. I'm a glue man, and I just clean as I go, and it seems to work really well. I don't have any issues. I get a lot of grip on that, and I can print quite high, and it stays put. So that's fantastic. Alright, so once you've done that, you need to go through and unscrew all of these screws. Now, there are a lot in this one, and this is why it's sort of taken me so long to come back to you, is purely because there's so many screws in here. What points do you mount, and blah 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 blah. Okay, so take these screws out. I'll fast forward the video, but I'll take all these out and we'll come up in a minute. Okay, so we're back, and that took me for bloody ever. It's a big bed and there's a lot of screws in here, so stay with it. Now, remove the bed and sort of push it up to the side and just get it out of the way for the time being. Pull all the screws out. Now, what you'll get here, and most of these fall out while you're doing it, so it's just about impossible to have it sitting here. You'll have all the little spacers, dotted all over the place. Collect them all, keep them all in a nice safe little spot. You can keep them all there. You can hang on to them if you want to revert back. That's what I recommend. However, the other thing you can do with these is, like I said in my other video, is use them to feed to the chickens. The CR6 community on Facebook, they love this shit and they go nuts over it. You chuck it out on the ground, they all peck at it and squabble and carry on like a pack of chickens, and it's fantastic. Anyway, so put those all aside. Now, what we need from this point on is some knobs. We need the longer screws, and we need the silicone mounts. Now, with the knobs, what I've actually done is I've 3D printed my own. They need to be a little bit smaller. These are roughly, excuse me, we're in Australia, so I'll use millimeters. It's almost 40 mil in length, right? So just on 40 mil. And all I did was put the little M4 screw brass inserts in, and that's all it is. It's just 3D printed. I actually 3D printed on this printer. They're not the best, don't get me wrong. This is done just under, I think, 0.4 or 0.5 millimeter height. I've got a 0.8 millimeter nozzle on this normally, and then I just insert this, and off it goes. It sort of depends on how you want to tackle it. I pushed them in from the top. I think if you were to push them flat on the ground and push them through, that might come through all right and be nice and flush. The only thing you got to look out for is make sure they're square, because if they're not, they sort of wobble a little bit. But to be honest, under the actual bed itself, with a little bit of heat, they tend to pull forward a little bit, and then they take grip, and they're solid. So these are perfect for what I'm using. You will need. Well, I've got 6 of them here at the moment. You can do as many as you like. It depends on what you want to put under there. But I just put the points, which I'll show you in a minute, on the outside, and then 2 in the middle. And what I do is I've printed a little baby one. And by the way, these files I'll make available on Thingiverse for you. You can print them directly out if you like, if you've got some M4 brass inserts. Whatever. You could even put wing nuts under there, right? It's entirely up to you. I just printed these because they're easy to work with. This little baby one, I only needed one of these. This one fits at the very back here, and the reason why that's there is because when the bed goes back, the bigger knob hits the stepper motor back there and stops the bed from going all the way back. So just needed a little bit more clearance, and so I've just put that under there. And look, to be honest, once I get this set, it just sort of sits there, and I don't need to touch them anymore, so it's perfectly fine. It does make it a little bit harder to type. You don't have as much leverage on the little one as you do the big ones, but it works fine. Once I got it leveled properly, it went beautifully. Okay, so if you've got your knobs printed out, or you've purchased your knobs, then all you need is some longer M4 screws. These ones that I've got here are, what are they? They're 28 mil, 29 mil, 28, 29, something along those lines. A little bit longer is perfectly fine. Basically, all you want is for the screw to actually be able to go through the aluminium, through the silicone spacer, which I'll talk about in a minute, through the build plate, like this aluminium part, and then enough for the knob to thread on. So 28, 29 millimeters there. If you were to go 30, 35, I'm sure it would still work. Any shorter than 25, I don't think it would be long enough. You'd be struggling to get anything out the bottom. So so go with that. I've got 1, 2, 4, 6, 7 of those screws, and then I've got 7 of these silicone spacers. Now these are the ones they market for 3D printers. This is just from AliExpress. I'm from Australia, and AliExpress is easy for me to get a hold of. They're the 18 millimeter long ones, and they're roughly, what's that, 16 millimeters in diameter. So they're not huge. To be honest, you could go any size of these. It wouldn't really matter. These ones have the hole to fit the M4 screws perfectly. They don't rattle around or anything like that. But if you had something a little bit longer or a little bit rounder, it wouldn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. As long as you get it in there, and it's, you want something that's solid like these silicone spacers, because when you screw it all down, it holds better. Holds better than springs. Can use springs, don't get me wrong. I just found Silicone Spacers far more stable than the springs. I ran springs on one of my SEs for a couple of months, and it just sort of bowed a little bit. Just the springs tend to warm up and contract and warm up and contract, and then it just sort of moves a little bit on you, and every now and then you've just got to tighten it or loosen it or do whatever you're going to do. So just look out for that one. Okay, so the points that I put these on, and I'll just lay these out. Now I won't actually screw them in just yet, but I put the points that I'm talking about. I'll lay these out and I'll move them again, because you've got to drill these, right? These are the points that I utilize, like this. There we go there. So the 6, 7, 8 points, not 7. There we go. So 8 points in total, and you basically drill them out with a 4mm drill bit, and all you're doing that for is so that when they go through, the 4mm doesn't have to screw in. Like this, so it doesn't pull, and you won't be able to adjust it from underneath because it's stuck to the plate. I had some people asking me this via message and chat and stuff, why we're drilling it out, but that's why. So when they're in like that, they can't move, and when they're in like this, the knob can actually pull them down, and you can adjust the bed without moving the glass off the bed, which is ideal. You really want that. Alright, so go ahead and drill out these 8 points. And leave the rest the way they are. They're perfectly fine. I don't use these points. There's one in the center here. I didn't bother with that one. I put 2 either side. So it's up to you, of course. If you want to put them all in, you probably could. I mean, you're not going to get knobs on these ones here because there's the extrusion directly underneath. So that's a bit of a bummer. But if you wanted, extra ones here, and here, if you're going to buy that many, then go for it. I just don't think it needs it. If you're adjusting, and there's 3, points for each corner of the bed, and it seems to hold really well. So once you got these drilled, boom, 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 you've gone through and drilled it and vacuumed the carpet. Of course, you don't want your wife hassling you, keeping up with all the curse words and stuff at you. Trust me, that's no good. Once you got this done, you're pretty much ready to rumble and assemble. So what I do is this is actually a little bit more difficult than it looks, just to get them lined up. Now, what I find I do that is easier is I push them through and stick the silicone to the screw, and then just sort of line it up like that and push it down, and then that way you can get them in the hole and get them lined up, and it's just a matter of playing with it. And I'll cut this video if it takes me forever, trust me. It's boring stuff. Yeah, you can see that, so I've pulled that one out. Now he's out. You've got to put the other one back in, blah 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 blah. So it takes a long time, but get them lined up. Push the 8 pieces down, and I'll cut the video here because this is going to take me a while, and I'll show you what you do afterwards. Okay, so we've got them all pushed through. Everything's back together. So I've got the 6 points around the outside and the 2 points in the middle. So take your knobs, thread them on. Now, because they're upside down, it's confusing. It feels like you're undoing it, but you're actually doing it up, and when you're doing it up, you're actually undoing it, but you get used to it. It's just because it's upside down to you. So screw these on, and the trick with these is I actually do them up till they're just giving me a little bit of friction, and then I'll leave them, and I just get them all onto that point so that they've just nudged up so that they don't come off and all that sort of stuff. One's fallen out. Must have had one too many in there, did I? I better have a look at that. Maybe one's fallen out. Surely not. It's just because there's so many of them. No, we're all good. Must have been an extra one. Ooh, bonus. Okay, so where were we? Keeping these going. These can be a little bit tough at the back here. The CR6-MAX is not too bad. The CR6-SEs, I tend to push through and use an Allen key to tighten them like this and hold the nut still. That's that one. Come around here. I'm building an enclosure over this side around my end of 5 plus. I've got all metal hot end and stuff in it. I've got some all metal hot ends installed on my SEs, but I don't really use them for printing anything heavy. I just use them for PLA, PETG at the moment. I've got 3 SEs that I have in a mini print farm configuration. One with a 2mm nozzle, one with a plain 4mm, and then one set up with a 4mm for PETG only. And then I have Octoprint on all of them, and yeah, I can do what I like then. I don't have to mess around with SD cards and stuff. Alright, so the last little one under here, get him on there. And what you want to do, once you got them all just with the friction point and everything sitting there, you actually want to tighten them down a few turns. The reason for this is you want some pressure on the silicone spacers so that they hold nice and tight, but at the same time you don't want it to lift up too high, because so basically you're not going to get this right first go. So you screw them down this way, like this, screw them down until they're about, I don't know, squish down 1/4, let's say. Oh, I've missed one there. Squish them down to 1/4. Oh, come on. It's a pain in the bum, guys. It's not a simple thing, but the good news is you only have to do it once. Once you've done it, you don't have to go back. Unless you hate me and you really want to go back. CR6 community, I'm talking to you, Facebook losers. Oh, I've never seen so many people go so crazy over someone just modding his own printers. Don't ruin your printers, people. It's like they're having love affairs with their printers, I swear. It's weird. It's weird shit. Get over it. It's a tool. I like to modify my tools. Okay, so screw them down. Get some resistance there. And make sure you're happy. Make sure it's nice and stable. You don't want it to be moving or anything like that. Nice and snugged up. And the little one's just a bit tighter. It's just because it's smaller, like I said, not as much leverage. So you sort of feel like, oh my god, I'm over tightening, but you're really not. It's just that it's tight, that's all. Okay, so there's our bed, right? So what you do from here, whack the glass back on, because you don't need to mess around. The bonus with having the screws underneath, the nuts underneath, is you can put the glass on and it's set and forget. You don't need to pull it up every time you want to modify the screws. We'll talk about that at the end of the video for you. If you don't want to go full on with the screws and stuff, there is another option. See what you think anyway. Okay, so that's that. Now turn your printer on, and I can't do it because I've got no hot end, and it's not going to have a spack attack. It thinks it's negative 15 degrees. Ooh, it's cold tonight. There's no temperature probe, obviously. Once that's done, go through, heat the bed up. No need to touch it anymore from this point. Heat the bed up and do a automatic bed leveling. Let it go through the process. So heat the bed up to 60 degrees or whatever you normally operate at. If it's a PETG printer for you, then bring it up to 80 or whatever you run it at. If it's just PLA, just run it to 60. I just use 60. It's mostly PLA on this printer for me. Bring it up to speed and let it do its thing. And on the CR6-MAX, it gives you the where are we? The leveling mesh. And some of them you can see and some of them you can't, the middle sections. That's perfectly fine. Just work on leveling the 4 corners and then go for your centers. It's actually really easy to do. It looks difficult, and sometimes it can be really frustrating. You're like doing it for like 30 minutes. You're like, what the hell? And you'll tighten something over here and something over there will go off. You've just got to remember you've just got to picture it how the bed would move when you pull it down a corner. If you pull down this corner, the other side is going to want to lift up. So you just got to be careful there. And then if you're pulling it down too far and then you're adjusting this one down too far on this side, you end up bowing the plate. So you've got to bring it down evenly, if that makes sense. And just sort of work around. So I just go like this, and then the 2 center ones. The thing with the 2 center ones is it takes its reference point from here. So the two center ones are really just holding the plate for stability, to be honest with you. You can go up and down. If you notice a little bit of bow in it, you can pull the plate down. Just be careful doing that, because you don't want to crack the glass, things like that. But I mean, you're not going to be cranking it down that much anyway, but that's what you need to do. So go through the process until you get it right. You can see here, I mean, I've just ruined it all to show you guys, but this was point 1 and point 1, point 2. It was a little bit out on this corner, so I would have screwed that tight a little bit and let it go. It's actually a fair bit of screwing to make it move the 0.1 of a millimeter, so it's not like 30 turns or anything like that, but you'll be surprised. When I first started, I was like, oh, just a little bit, because it's only 0.1. It's actually a fair bit, so keep that in mind. And that's it, team. Once you get that up and running, you'll find it sort of stays a lot more trammed for a lot longer. Another way of getting the bed leveling right is to whack a caliper on here and measure the distance between there, and there, even the sides if you wish, and trying to get it to the best of your ability, and then going through the process. You can do that. It's just an extra process. I tend to just cut straight to the bed leveling and let it do its thing. Just keep in mind, if you are going to use spacers that are a little bit higher, the CR6 and the CR6-MAX have this little octo coupler. Just make sure it's not so high that this doesn't touch anymore. But I mean, it shouldn't do. It should be perfectly fine. That you'd have to go up pretty high. I don't think you can get these any bigger than a little bit more, like 20 mil or 25 mil or something. You'd have to go 40 mil probably to stop that from happening. So I doubt that's going to occur. The other option is to buy, how many of these are there? There's 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 of these silicone spacers, placing them in here, buying 25 of the 28mm M4 screws, putting them down, and then just tightening them all one by one. That's another great option. I didn't do it because it's just a whole heap of extra work, and every time you want to level a bed, you've got to take the glass off, which can change shit on you anyway. But look, it is a great option. If you don't want to do the knobs, you just tighten up all the different screws, and they just squish the spacers in between the plate and the build bed themselves. So that is an option. It's one option that I just didn't want to go to. I want to be able to do it without removing the glass, because it gets it bang on. I think that's it, team. I'm going to go through another video in a couple of days probably, just of my favorite mods on the CR6-MAX. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When I got my CR6-MAX, it took me, I don't know, 8 weeks to try and get any decent print out of it. It just ran like an absolute dog. Down to the bracket at the back with the stepper motor, that was too thin. Like the squaring of the frame wasn't that good. They talk about this triangle that they've designed. That can actually cause all sorts of grief, and it can give you Z binding or Z binding. Just everything, and I have to have the belts quite tight on this one, so I'm going through and I'm just modding things to do what I want to do. So to be honest, I'll probably replace the motherboard eventually in this thing, and I'll probably whack on another extruder. I've got another video there of the build plate that I've created. This one's a modified one. I've got another one over here, but it's a direct drive with the original stepper motor in it. It's not a pancake. For some reason, the pancake motor overheated for me, probably to do with the current with the board, and that's what I want to change it out for. So, and the other thing I want to do is have 2 pivot points on the end here, and have the bed leveling with a 5 channel board or something along those lines. I'll do something like that so that it will level itself and tram the system nicely by itself. Well, I hope that helps, guys. I hope that's everything you were chasing. Like I said, sorry it's taken me so long to do. It's been a busy couple of months for me. Cyber attacks and God knows what else. Yeah, I'll be around soon and show you the mod video that I'm going to be working on. Cheers, guys.